They thought she was just another outsider, easy to break, easy to erase. But when three bullies cornered Amara in the moonlit streets of Cedar Lane, they didn't expect her to have a secret weapon, a drone buzzing overhead, capturing every word, and two fiercely loyal dogs ready to protect their own. The Georgia heat clung to Amara Carter like a second skin, a suffocating weight that pressed her cotton t-shirt against her back as she walked home from the bus stop, her sneakers scuffing against the pristine sidewalks of Cedar Lane, the subdivisions. Manicured lawns stretched out in perfect rows, each house a mirror of the next with its cedar shingles, white trim, and neatly trimmed hedges glowing faintly under the September moon. The air was thick with humidity, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from someone's garden, but the quiet of the evening felt deceptive, like the calm before a storm. At 16, Amara was used to standing out her dark skin, her tight curls pulled into a high bun, her Atlanta accent that rolled off her tongue with a rhythm that didn't quite match the clipped cadence of this wealthy suburb. But here, in Cedar Lane, every glance from a neighbor felt like a judgment, every polite smile a mask hiding something sharper. Her mother, Dr. Amara Carter, had warned her before they moved, "This place is different, baby. Keep your eyes open." Amara adjusted the straps of her backpack, heavy with textbooks and the sleek quadcopter she'd been tinkering with for weeks in her bedroom. It was her latest drone prototype, a compact frame with a high-resolution camera she'd built from scavenged parts and a soldering iron her mom had given her last Christmas. The drone was her pride, a testament to her love for tech, something she'd inherited from her mother, a former Air Force engineer who now worked for a tech firm in Savannah. Beside her, Titan and Nova, their two German shepherds, padded silently, their ears twitching at every rustle in the bushes, every distant car engine. The dogs were more than pets, they were family, trained by her mother during her military days to protect and obey with a precision that made them seem almost human. Their dark fur gleamed under the streetlights, and their eyes scanned the surroundings with a vigilance that made Amara feel safer, even in a place that felt like it was watching her every move. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she glanced at the screen. A text from her cousin Jaden, back in Atlanta. "Drone feeds live. I'm watching your 6." She smiled faintly, her thumb brushing the screen. Jaden, a year older and a tech whiz who'd taught her half of what she knew about coding, had insisted on remote monitoring her walks home after she'd mentioned the stairs at school. "You're in bougie land now," he'd teased over FaceTime. "Gotta have eyes in the sky." Cedar Lane was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance for Amara and her mom to build a new life after years of scraping by in a cramped Atlanta apartment. Dr. Carter's promotion had come with a hefty raise, enough to afford the modest 2-story house with a backyard big enough for Titan and Nova to roam. The house wasn't fancy like the sprawling estates that lined the main loop of the subdivision, but its cedar shingles and wraparound porch felt like a promise of something better. Amara had stood on that porch 2 weeks ago, watching the moving truck pull away, her mom's arm around her shoulders. "This is ours, Amara," Nia had said, her voice warm with pride, "our piece of the world." But from the moment the truck's taillights disappeared, Amara felt the weight of unseen eyes. Across the street, Evelyn Price, the HOA secretary, had paused her gardening to stare, her pruning shears frozen mid-snip. "Welcome to Cedar Lane," she'd called out, her smile thin and sharp, her eyes lingering on Titan and Nova as they sniffed the front yard. Amara had waved back, but the gesture felt like a test she'd already failed. At Willow Creek High, the stairs were worse. Amara was the new girl, the only black student in most of her classes, her presence a ripple in the sea of white faces and pastel palos. The whispers started on her first day. "Did you see her hair? Those dogs looked dangerous." Logan Pierce, the mayor's son, was the worst of them. He strutted through the halls in his football jersey, his blonde hair swept back, his grin cocky and untouchable. He was the kind of kid who knew the world bent to him, and he made sure everyone else knew it too. With his friends, Ethan and Caleb, he'd zeroed in on Amara like she was a target painted on her back. In the cafeteria on her second day, they'd slid into the seats across from her, Logan leaning forward with a smirk. "What's that smell?" he'd said, loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. "Your lunch smells like—" "What, roadkill?" Ethan and Caleb had snickered, and Amara had stared at her homemade jerk chicken, her mom's recipe, feeling her cheeks burn. She'd wanted to snap back, but her mother's voice echoed in her head, "Don't let them see you flinch." So she'd taken a bite, slow and deliberate, holding Logan's gaze until he looked away, his smirk faltering just for a second. Tonight, as Amara turned onto Maple Drive, the air shifted, the quiet growing heavier. She was 3 blocks from home, the moon casting long shadows across the pavement, when a low rumble broke the silence. A modified pickup truck, its headlights slicing through the dusk like knives. Her pulse quickened, but she kept walking, her pace steady, Titan and Nova tensing beside her. She recognized the truck instantly. Logan's. It was a red Chevy Silverado, lifted high on oversized tires, the kind of vehicle that screamed money and arrogance. She'd seen him climb into it after school, revving the engine as he peeled out of the parking lot, Caleb and Ethan whooping from the passenger seats. Her phone buzzed again, another text from Jaden. "That truck's bad news. Stay sharp." Amara's fingers brushed the whistle around her neck, a small silver pendant her mom had given her when she was 10. "It's not just for show," Mia had said, demonstrating how a sharp blast would bring Titan and Nova running. Amara had never needed it before, but now, with the truck's engine growling closer, her fingers closed around it. The truck crept up behind her, moving barely faster than her walking pace, its headlights bathing her in harsh white light. She didn't look back, but she could feel the weight of their stares, hear the low murmur of voices inside the cab. "Hey, new girl." Logan's voice cut through the night, sharp and mocking. "What's with the guard dogs? Scared of us already?" Amara's jaw tightened, but she kept her eyes forward, counting houses to home. 5, 4. The truck surged forward, tires screeching as it swung around in a wide arc, cutting her off and blocking the street. The driver's door flew open, and Logan jumped out, his Letterman jacket tied around his waist, his t-shirt dark with sweat in the humid evening air. Ethan and Caleb piled out after him, Ethan stocky with a buzz cut, Caleb lanky with a permanent sneer, his phone already out and recording. "Where are you running to?" Ethan taunted, stepping closer, his boots heavy on the asphalt. "This ain't your hood." Titan growled low, a deep rumble that vibrated through Amara's legs. Nova's ears pinned back, her eyes locked on Caleb, who was angling his phone for a better shot. "Look at her, thinking she's tough," Caleb sneered, zooming in. "Maybe. We should teach her where she belongs." Amara's heart pounded, but she stood her ground, her mother's training kicking in. Never show fear. Above, Jaden's drone hovered high, its faint buzz drowned out by the truck's idling engine. She knew it was recording, its camera capturing every move, every word. "Back off," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Logan laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the silent houses. "Or what? You gonna cry to Mommy?" "Oh, wait, she's too busy playing soldier, right?" The taunts turned uglier, laced with slurs that made Amara's stomach churn. Logan stepped closer, his shadow looming over her, Ethan and Caleb spreading out to block her path. She was cornered now, the truck on one side, the boys on the other, the wooden fence of a neighbor's yard at her back. Her fingers tightened around the whistle, her breath coming in short gasps. 4 houses from the home. She could see the American flag her mom had hung on their porch, the flower beds they'd planted together last weekend. But the boys were closing in, their voices louder, crueler. "You don't belong here," Logan said, his smile twisting into something vicious. "Maybe we need to make that clear." Amara blew the whistle, a sharp, piercing sound that cut through the humid air like a blade. The response was instant. Titan and Nova sprang forward, their powerful bodies launching across the pavement with military precision. They positioned themselves between Amara and the boys, their stances wide, hackles raised, deep growls rumbling from their chests. Logan stumbled backward, his bravado evaporating, his face paling as Titan's lips pulled back to reveal gleaming white teeth. Ethan dropped his phone, the device clattering to the sidewalk, and Caleb froze, his camera still rolling but his hands shaking. "Call them off," Logan shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "Jesus Christ, call them off." "They won't move unless you do," Amara said, her voice calm now, though her heart was still racing. "Back away slowly, and they'll stay right here." The dogs held their ground, their eyes tracking every twitch of the boys' movements, their growls a low, steady warning. Above, the drone dipped lower, its red light blinking as it captured the scene. Logan's eyes darted to it, his expression shifting from fear to fury. "You're recording this?" He spat, but he was already retreating, nearly tripping over Ethan, who was scrambling to pick up his phone. Caleb backed away too, muttering curses under his breath. The boys piled into the truck, Logan slamming the door as he gunned the engine. Tires squealing as they sped off around the corner. Amara stood frozen for a moment, her breath coming in ragged gasps, the whistle still clutched in her hand. Titan and Nova relaxed slightly, their growls fading, but they stayed close, pressing against her legs as if to reassure her. She knelt to scratch their ears, whispering, "Good boys," her voice shaking now that the danger had passed. Porch lights flicked on across the street, neighbors peering through curtains, but no one came out. The drone buzzed softly overhead, and Amara's phone vibrated with another text from Jaden. "Got it all. Sending you the file now. You okay?" She typed back a quick, "Yeah, thanks," her fingers trembling as she hit send. She made it to the last 4 houses to home, the dogs trotting beside her, their ears still alert. The front door opened before she could reach for her key, and Dr. Amara Carter stood there, her work blazer unbuttoned, her dark eyes scanning Amara's face. "Everything all right, baby?" she asked, her voice calm but laced with concern. Amara nodded, but her mom's gaze shifted to the dogs, then to the street behind her. Nia had been an Air Force engineer for 15 years, trained to read situations as much as machines, and she didn't miss much. "Come inside," she said, holding the door open. "Tell me what happened." In the kitchen, Amara sat at the table, a glass of water in front of her, while Titan and Nova settled at her feet, their warm presence grounding her. She told her mom everything: the truck, the taunts, the whistle, the drone. Nia listened, her face unreadable, but her hands tightened around her glass. "Those boys," Amara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They said I don't belong here. They called me ...
She trailed off, the slurs too raw to repeat.
Nia reached across the table, her calloused hand closing over Amara's. "You belong wherever you stand," she said firmly. "And those dogs? They did exactly what I trained them to do, protect you. I'm proud of you for staying calm." "But they recorded it, Mom," Amara said, her voice breaking. "Caleb had his phone out the whole time. What if they twist it?" Nia's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed steady. "We'll deal with that if it comes. For now, send me Jaden's footage, and tomorrow we're talking to the school." Amara nodded, pulling out her phone to forward the drone file. But as she opened her social media, her stomach dropped. Caleb's video was already online, posted to TikTok, and spreading fast. It was edited to start the moment Titan and Nova charged, their teeth bared, with no trace of the boys' taunts or Amara's fear. The caption read, "Crazy girls attack dogs on innocent teens in peaceful neighborhood." Comments were flooding in, each one worse than the last. "Those dogs should be put down." "She's trouble. Get her out of Cedar Lane." Amara's hands shook as she showed her mom the screen. Nia's eyes narrowed, but she didn't flinch. "They're trying to control the story," she said. "But we've got the truth on our side, and that drone footage, that's our weapon." She stood, her movements precise like she was still in uniform. "Get some rest, Amara. Tomorrow we start fighting back." Amara lay in bed that night, the glow of her phone casting shadows across her new bedroom. The pale gray walls, the window seat where she'd planned to read, the unpacked boxes stacked in the corner, it all felt foreign, like a house that didn't belong to her. Titan and Nova curled up on the floor beside her, their steady breathing a small comfort. Outside, Cedar Lane was silent, but Amara could still hear the echo of Logan's voice, the screech of his tires. Her phone buzzed with another notification, another share of the video, this time on the Cedar Lane Community Forum, a post from Evelyn Price. "These dangerous animals threaten our children's safety. We need action now." The next morning, Amara woke to the sound of birds chirping outside her window, their cheerful calls a stark contrast to the knot in her stomach. She dressed carefully, dark jeans, a teal blouse her mom had picked out, her curls twisted into neat rows. In the bathroom, she touched the small gold pendant at her throat, a gift from her grandmother before she passed last year. "You're stronger than you know," her grandma had said, her voice raspy but firm. Amara took a deep breath, meeting her own brown eyes in the mirror. She could do this. She had to. Downstairs, Nia was already in the kitchen, the smell of pancakes and coffee filling the air. She slid a plate in front of Amara, her expression serious. "Morning, baby girl," she said. "Ready for today?" Amara poked at her pancakes, her appetite gone. "I guess," she mumbled. Nia sat across from her, her plate untouched. "Look at me," she said, her voice carrying the same quiet authority she'd used when commanding a hangar full of airmen. "You're not just my daughter, you're a Carter. We don't back down. Those boys might think they run this town, but they've never met someone like us." Amara nodded, her throat tight. "What about the video?" she asked. "Everyone's already seen it." Nia's eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. "We've got Jaden's footage. We've got the truth. And I've already called the school to let them know about the dogs and our situation. If anything happens, call me immediately." Amara managed a small smile. "Yes, ma'am." But as she grabbed her backpack and gave Titan and Nova a quick pat goodbye, their soft whines tugged at her heart. They sensed her nervousness just like they always did. The walk to the bus stop took 7 minutes, just as she'd timed it the day before. Amara stood alone at the corner, watching other students gather in clumps down the street, their laughter and chatter a world apart from her. No one approached her, but she could feel their eyes, their whispers trailing her like shadows. On the bus, she found an empty seat near the middle, the vinyl cool against her legs. As more students boarded, they filled the seats around her, leaving a conspicuous gap beside and behind her. A girl in a cheerleader uniform whispered to her friend, loud enough for Amara to hear, "Did you see that video? Her dogs almost killed Logan." Amara stared out the window, her fingers tracing spirals on her notebook. Willow Creek High was a sprawling brick building with white columns out front, trying hard to look like something from a southern plantation. Amara joined the stream of students flowing through the main entrance, clutching her schedule like a lifeline. Her first class was a P Physics, a subject she loved, but today the room felt like a minefield. She chose a seat near the window, hoping to blend in, but the whispers followed her. "Did you see who moved in on Cedar Lane? I heard they've got attack dogs. My dad says property values are gonna tank." Amara kept her eyes on her notebook, doodling circuits to steady her hands. The teacher, Mr. Hargrove, a balding man with thick glasses, barely looked up as he took attendance, his voice droning over the names. The morning passed in a blur of new faces and poorly hidden stares. In English, a girl named Sarah Chun, quiet and studious, gave Amara a small nod, the closest thing to kindness she'd seen all day. But in the hallways, the whispers grew bolder. By lunch, Amara's shoulders ached from the tension of holding herself upright, her mom's words echoing, "Head high, baby." The cafeteria was a sea of noise, circular tables claimed by cliques that seemed to have formed years ago. Amara found an empty spot near the wall, unpacking her lunch, a turkey sandwich and plantain chips, another of her mom's recipes. She'd barely taken a bite when Logan's voice cut through the din. "Well, look who it is," he said, loud enough to turn heads. Amara looked up to see him striding toward her, Ethan and Caleb in tow. Logan's football jersey was crisp, his grin predatory. "I'm Logan Pierce," he announced, stopping in front of her table. "And these are my boys, Ethan and Caleb." He gestured to his friends, Ethan cracking his knuckles, Caleb already filming on his phone. Amara said nothing, focusing on her sandwich, but her hands trembled slightly. "That's some interesting hair you got there," Logan continued, his voice carrying across the now quieting cafeteria. "What do you call that style? Jungle chic?" Ethan snickered, and Caleb zoomed in, muttering, "Gotta get this for the school paper. New girl's unique fashion choices." Amara's cheeks burned, but she kept her face blank, her grandmother's voice in her head. "Don't let them see you cry." "And that skin," Logan went on, leaning closer. "Must be hard to find makeup that matches, huh? Do they even sell your shade around here?" The cafeteria was nearly silent now, every eye on the scene. Amara stood slowly, packing up her lunch with deliberate care, her movements steady despite the tears threatening behind her eyes. Not a single person spoke up. She walked out, head high, the whispers following her like a swarm. The afternoon sun was brutal as Amara walked home from the bus stop, the heat making her backpack feel like a lead weight. Cedar Lane streets were empty, most residents still at work, their lawns pristine and lifeless. She counted houses to keep her mind occupied. 12 to go, 11:10, when the roar of an engine shattered the quiet. Her heart lurched. Logan's truck, the same red Chevy she'd seen last night. The engine revved again, closer now, echoing. Off the houses. Amara kept walking, forcing herself not to run. Her mom's training rang in her ears. Running only encouraged them. The truck appeared behind her, crawling at her pace, the boys' laughter spilling from the open windows. Double quotes, "Hey, dog girl," Logan called out. "Want a ride?" Amara kept her eyes forward, her fingers brushing the whistle. 8 houses to go. "Come on," Ethan's voice joined in. "We're just trying to be friendly." The truck pulled alongside her now, its exhaust thick in the air. She could see Logan behind the wheel, Caleb in the passenger seat, and Ethan leaning out the back window. "What's wrong?" Ethan sneered. "Too good to talk to us?" Amara's hands tightened on her backpack straps. 6 houses. 5. The truck revved again, lurching forward before braking hard, making her flinch. "Maybe she doesn't speak English," Caleb taunted, loud and clear. "Should we talk slower?" 4 houses. 3. Amara could see her house. Now, the flag, the flower beds, but also the risk. They'd know where she lived. The truck surged past her, tires squealing, then swung around to block the street again. Logan jumped out, Ethan and Caleb following, their faces alight with cruel anticipation. "Going somewhere?" Logan asked, stepping forward, his shadow stretching across the pavement. Amara glanced over her shoulder. The way back was clear, but it would mean retreating, giving them power. She stood her ground, her mom's voice in her head. "You belong wherever you stand." "Move," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Ethan laughed, a harsh bark. "Or what? You gonna call your mutts?" Caleb's phone was out, recording again. "Let's see those dangerous dogs everyone's talking about." Logan took another step, his smile turning cold. Your mom can't protect you forever. Neither can those animals. The slurs started then, ugly and raw, each word designed to cut. Amara backed away slowly, keeping them in view, her hand on the whistle. The drone buzzed faintly above, Jaden's eyes in the sky, but it wasn't enough. She was 3 blocks from home, but it felt like miles. Her back hit the wooden fence of a neighbor's yard, the boys spreading out to block her escape. Running away? Logan taunted. That's right, go back where you came from. Amara's breath came in short gasps, her fingers trembling around the whistle. She could see her house, so close, yet so far. The boys were 20 feet away now, closing in, their taunts louder, bolder. Maybe we should help her pack, Ethan said, cracking his knuckles. Maybe we should, Logan agreed, his eyes gleaming. Amara blew the whistle, the sound sharp and commanding. Titan and Nova exploded from the shadows of her front yard, where they'd been let out to roam the fence lawn. Their growls filled the air, deep and thunderous. As they positioned themselves between Amara and the boys, their bodies coiled with disciplined power. Logan stumbled back, his face white. Ethan dropped his phone again, and Caleb's hands shook, his camera capturing the dog's bared teeth. Call them off. Logan screamed, his voice high and panicked. Amara stood tall behind her protectors, her heart still racing, but her chin lifted. Back away, and they won't move, she said, her voice steady now. The boys scrambled back, nearly tripping over each other, their bravado gone. A shout came from across the street. What's going on out here? Mr. Reynolds, a neighbor, burst from his front door, his face red with indignation. Someone call the police. This girl just set her dogs on these boys. Amara's stomach dropped. No, that's not true. She protested, but Mr. Reynolds was already on his phone. Yes, 911, there's a situation on Cedar Lane. A girl just 6'2" attacked dogs on some kids. We need officers now. Logan found his voice, emboldened by the adult's presence. They attacked us, we were just walking by. Other neighbors emerged, phones raised, recording the aftermath. Titan and Nova still in their protective stance, the boys looking scared and innocent. They were chasing me. Amara tried again, but Mr. Reynolds cut her off. Keep those animals back. The police are coming. Logan smirked, his fear replaced by smugness. Better control your dogs before the cops show up, he called. Out. Amara's eyes burned with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Titan and Nova stayed still, waiting for her command, as sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer, painting Cedar Lane in red and blue dot. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen blinds, casting striped shadows across the wooden table where Amara sat, her phone clutched tightly in her hands. The TikTok video Caleb had posted was everywhere now, racking up thousands of views overnight, each share twisting the knife deeper. Those dogs should be put down. She's trouble. Get her out of Cedar Lane. The comments stung, but the worst was the caption. Crazy girls attack dogs on innocent teens in peaceful neighborhood. It was a lie, a carefully edited clip that showed only Titan and Nova charging, their teeth bared, with no trace of Logan, Ethan, and Caleb's taunts, no hint of Amara's fear as they cornered her. She scrolled through the hate, her stomach churning, until her mother's voice broke through. "Amara, put the phone down," Dr. Nia Carter said, her tone firm but gentle. She stood at the counter, still in her work blazer, pouring coffee into a mug. "You're only torturing yourself." Amara set the phone face down, but the buzz of new notifications kept pulling her back. "They're making me the villain, Mom," she whispered, her voice tight. "Everyone believes them." Nia sat across from her, sliding a plate of toast and eggs in front of Amara. Her dark eyes, sharp from years of reading schematics and soldiers, studied her daughter. "Not everyone," she said. "We've got Jaden's drone footage. We've got the truth. And we're not going to let them rewrite our story." Amara nodded, but the weight of the night before pressed down on her. Titan and Nova lay at her feet, their warm presence a small comfort, but even they seemed restless, their ears twitching at every sound outside. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, and Nia's jaw tightened. "Stay here," she said, standing. With the measured calm of someone who'd faced worse than nosy neighbors, Amara peeked through the blinds as her mom opened the door. Evelyn Price, the HOA secretary, stood on the porch, her blonde bob immaculate, her smile as thin as ever. "Good morning, Dr. Carter," Evelyn said, her voice syrupy. "I'm here about those dogs of yours. We've had complaints after last night single quotes ... incident." She held out a clipboard with a form titled Pet Regulation Violation Notice. "We need to see their registration papers, and I'm afraid there's a hearing scheduled to determine if they're a danger to the community." Amara's heart sank, but Nia didn't flinch. "They're military-trained service animals," she said, her voice like steel. "Fully certified. I'll get you the paperwork, but let's be clear, those boys were harassing my daughter. You might want to look into that before you start pointing fingers." Evelyn's smile faltered, but she pressed on. "The HOA has strict rules about dangerous breeds, Dr. Carter. We're just following protocol." Nia handed over a folder with Titan and Nova's certifications, her eyes never leaving Evelyn's. "So am I," she said. "And I expected fair process." As Evelyn left, Amara's phone buzzed again, a text from Jaden. "Check the community forum. It's bad." She opened the Cedar Lane community forum on her phone, her breath catching at the post pinned to the top. Urgent. "Dangerous animals threatening our children." Evelyn had written it, attaching Caleb's video and a call for an emergency HOO meeting to address the safety concern. The comments were a flood of outrage. "Those dogs are a menace. Why did they even move here?" Amara's hands trembled as she showed her mom. Nia's expression darkened, but she kept her voice steady. "They're scared," she said. "Scared of what they can't control, but we're not backing down. Get ready for school. We'll handle this together." The walk to the bus stop felt longer than usual, the air thick with Georgia humidity. Amara kept her head down, her backpack heavy with her drone parts and textbooks. Titan and Nova had stayed home, confined to the backyard per Nia's orders, to avoid more trouble. At the bus stop, the other kids stood in their usual clumps, their whispers louder now, their stares unhidden. "That's her," a girl muttered, pointing. "The one with the attack dogs." Amara ignored them, boarding the bus and finding her usual seat near the middle. The seats around her stayed empty, a silent barrier that spoke louder than words. She pulled out her notebook, doodling drone schematics to keep her hands busy, but the whispers followed her at Willow Creek High. The school's brick facade loomed ahead, its white columns gleaming in the morning light. Amara clutched her schedule as she navigated the crowded halls, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floors. Her locker was on the second floor, tucked between the science wing and the library. She approached it cautiously, her heart sinking as she saw the damage. Someone had taped printouts of Caleb's video screenshots across it, the images grainy but unmistakable Titan and Nova mid-charge, looking ferocious. Below them, in thick red marker, were the words "Dog Girl Attacks Innocent Kids." Amara's hands shook as she tore the papers down, crumpling them into tight balls. Footsteps approached, and she braced herself, expecting Logan or his crew. Instead, it was Sarah Chun, the quiet girl from English class, her dark eyes flickering with concern. "You okay?" Sarah asked, her voice soft. Amara nodded, but her throat was too tight to speak. Sarah hesitated, then added, "I don't believe that video. It doesn't add up." Before Amara could respond, Sarah hurried off to class, leaving her alone with the crumpled papers. First period was a P Physics, usually a refuge where Amara could lose herself in equations and circuits. But today, the room felt hostile, the other students' glances sharp as knives. Mr. Hargrove droned on about Newton's laws, but Amara could barely focus, her mind replaying the video, the comments, the HOA notice. In English, the whispers were bolder. "Did you see her locker? My mom says they're getting kicked out." Amara kept her eyes on her copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. The irony of discussing justice in a 1930s courtroom will levy irony off being ostracized for doing. So wasn't it lost on her? By lunch, her shoulders ached from the effort of holding herself upright. Her mom's words, "Head high, baby," a mantra she clung to. The cafeteria was a battlefield, every table a claimed territory. Amara found her spot near the wall, unpacking her lunch with mechanical precision. That's when Logan's voice rang out again. Well, dog girl," he said, striding toward her with Ethan and Caleb in tow. The cafeteria quieted, heads turning to watch. Logan leaned against her table, his football jersey pristine, his grin cruel. "Heard your mutts are getting locked up. Good. Maybe you'll learn your place." Amara's hands clenched around her sandwich, but she didn't look up. "Leave me alone," she said, her voice low but steady. Ethan laughed, a harsh bark. "Or what? Gonna whistle for your attack dogs?" Caleb was filming again, his phone angled to catch her reaction. "Smile for the camera," he taunted. "This one's going viral too." The surrounding tables snickered, and Amara felt the weight of every eye, every phone pointed her way. She stood, packing her lunch, her movements slow to hide the trembling in her hands. "Don't let them see you cry," she told herself, her grandmother's voice echoing. She walked out, the cafeteria's laughter chasing her. The afternoon dragged, each class a blur of sideways glances and whispered rumors. In history, Ms. Torres, a young teacher with a sharp gaze, noticed Amara's silence but didn't press. Amara raised her hand once, answering a question about the civil rights movement, only to hear a mutter from the back, "Know it all." Ms. Torres didn't react, but her eyes lingered on Amara, a flicker of concern breaking through her professional mask. By the final bell, Amara lingered in the classroom, waiting for the halls to clear. She stopped by her locker, noting the red marker had been smeared by a half-hearted attempt to clean it, leaving an ugly stain. She grabbed her books and slipped out the front doors, hoping to avoid Logan's crew. No such luck. The red Chevy idled in the parking lot, Logan leaning against the hood, Ethan and Caleb lounging nearby. "There she is," Logan called out, his voice carrying across the lot. "The dog whisperer herself?" Amara's heart sank, but she kept walking, her eyes fixed on the sidewalk. "Bet she thinks she's better than us," Ethan added, pushing off the truck. "With her fancy trained mutts." Caleb's phone was out, recording again. "Maybe we should show her what happens to people who don't know their place," Logan said, taking a step forward. Amara's fingers brushed the whistle in her pocket, but the dogs were at home, and Jaden's drone wasn't here. She was alone. The school doors swung open behind her, and Miss Torres stepped out, carrying a stack of papers. "Everything okay out here?" she asked, her voice sharp, her eyes moving between Amara and the boys. Logan's face shifted to an innocent smile. "Just leaving, ma'am," he said, climbing into the truck. The others followed, the engine roaring as they peeled out, laughter trailing behind them. Ms. Torres turned to Amara. "Need a ride home?" Amara shook her head, clutching her backpack. "I'm fine, thank you." But they both knew she wasn't. The walk home was quiet. The streets of Cedar Lane empty, except for the occasional car. Amara counted houses again. 12, 11, 10, her mind racing. The viral video, the HOA notice, the locker vandalism, it was all closing in, a noose tightening around her and her mom. She reached the front door, her key shaking in her hand, and found Nia waiting in the living room, her laptop open on the coffee table. "They're escalating," Nia said, her voice grim. She showed Amara an email from the HOO, a formal notice demanding that Titan and Nova be impounded pending the hearing. "They're claiming public safety concerns," Nia said. "But this isn't about the dogs, it's about us." Amara sank onto the couch, her backpack sliding to the floor. "What do we do, Mom?" Nia's eyes softened, but her voice was resolute. "We fight smart. I've been digging into Cedar Lane's records at the county office. There's something off about this place, patterns of families being pushed out, always people like us. Black, Hispanic, Asian. I found zoning laws from the 80s that kept black families from buying here. The Pierces, the Prices, they've been running this town for decades, burying anything that threatens their image." Amara's eyes widened. "You think they're targeting us because of that?" Nia nodded. "It's not just you and me. It's a system, but systems can be broken." The doorbell rang again, and Amara tensed, expecting Evelyn Price or worse. Instead, it was Jaden, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his laptop tucked under his arm. "I took the bus from Atlanta," he said, grinning as he stepped inside. "Couldn't let you fight this alone." Amara hugged him, relief flooding her. Jaden was 17, lanky with a mop of black hair and glasses that always slid down his nose. He'd been her tech mentor since they were kids, teaching her to code Arduinos and debug Python scripts. "Show me the drone footage," Nia said. and Jaden set up his laptop, pulling up the unedited video. It showed everything: Logan's truck stalking Amara, the boys' taunts, their slurs, the way they cornered her before the dogs appeared. "This is gold," Nia said, her eyes gleaming with strategy. "But we need more. They're not just kids, they're backed by power." Jaden's fingers flew over the keyboard. "I've been poking around the HOA's email server," he said. "It's not exactly Fort Knox. Found some deleted emails from Mayor Pierce to Evelyn Price, talking about keeping Cedar Lane pure. They've been targeting minority families for years, fines for stupid stuff like mailbox colors or kids." Playing too loud. Amara's jaw dropped. "You hacked their server?" Jaden shrugged, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Not hacked, just accessed. There's more." They mentioned a black family in the 80s, the Thompsons, who were forced out after their house was mysteriously condemned. Sound familiar? Nia leaned forward, her military training kicking in. "We need to connect this to someone who can amplify it. I've got a contact at the county records office, but we need a voice outside Cedar Lane." Amara thought of Ms. Torres, the history teacher who'd seemed sympathetic. "Ms. Torres might help," she said. "She's been asking questions." "About the bullying?" Nia nodded. "Good. Reach out to her tomorrow. And Jaden, keep digging. If there's a paper trail, we'll find it." That night, Amara couldn't sleep, her mind spinning with the day's events. She sat at her desk, her drone prototype glowing under a desk lamp. She was building it for the upcoming STEM fair, a project she'd been excited about before Cedar Lane turned hostile. The drone was designed to project images onto surfaces, a blend of her love for tech and art. She'd envisioned projecting murals of Atlanta's skyline, a tribute to her old home, but now she wondered if it could be more a way to tell her story. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah Chen. "Saw your locker today. I'm sorry. Want to talk?" Amara hesitated, then typed back, "Thanks. Maybe tomorrow." Sarah's small act of kindness was a flicker of hope, but it wasn't enough to drown out the hate online. The next day at school, the harassment intensified. In the hallway, someone had taped more video screenshots to her locker, this time with slurs scrawled across them. Amara tore them down, her hands shaking, as a group of girls nearby giggled. "Careful," one said. "She might sick her dogs on you." Amara slammed her locker shut, the bang echoing through the hall, and headed to history class. Miss Torres was at the board, writing notes about the civil rights movement, but she paused when Amara entered, her eyes lingering. "Amara, can you stay after class?" she asked quietly. Amara nodded, her stomach twisting with nerves. The lesson dragged, and the irony of discussing desegregation while being shunned was not lost on her. Logan sat across the room, smirking whenever she glanced his way. When the bell rang, Amara stayed at her desk, waiting as the other students filed out. Miss Torres closed the door, her expression serious. "I saw the video," she said. "And I saw your locker. I don't believe the story they're spinning. Tell me what happened." Amara hesitated, then poured out everything: the truck, the taunts, the drone footage, the HOA notice. Miss Torres listened, her pen moving across a notepad. "This isn't the first time," she said when Amara finished. "Last year, a Latino family, the Garcias, was fined out of their home for violations that didn't apply to anyone else. I know a journalist, Mia Chen, who's been investigating Cedar Lane's HOA. Can I share this with her? Amara's eyes widened. Mia Chen? Sarah's mom? Miss Torres nodded. She's been digging into the town's history for months. If you've got evidence, she can help. Amara felt a spark of hope, but it was quickly doused when she checked her phone. The HOA had posted an update. Animal control would be coming for Titan and Nova tomorrow unless they could prove the dogs weren't dangerous. They're taking our dogs, Amara whispered, her voice breaking. Miss Torres's expression hardened. Not if we can help it. Send me that drone footage. And Amara, keep working on your STEM project. It's more important than you think. After school, Amara met Jaden at the public library, a glass and brick building on the edge of town. They set up in a quiet corner, Jaden's laptop open to a folder of hacked HOA emails. Look at this, he said, pulling up a thread between Mayor Pierce and Evelyn Price. They've been fining minority families for years, everything from unapproved garden decorations to noise complaints that don't hold up. And here's the kicker. They mentioned a precedent from 1983, when the Thompsons were forced out after their house was declared unsafe. No inspection records, just a sudden condemnation. Amara's mind raced. That's what Mom found in the county records. It's like they've been doing this forever. Jaden nodded, his glasses glinting under the fluorescent lights. There's more? I found a deleted email from Pierce to the school board, Ethan's mom, telling them to keep an eye on you. They're coordinating this. Amara's hands clenched into fists. They're trying to run us out. Jaden's grin was fierce. Not if we expose them first. Your STEM project, can that drone project video? Amara nodded, an idea forming. It's supposed to project images, but I could modify it to play video. If we could show the drone footage at the fair. Jaden's eyes lit up. Exactly. We hit them where it hurts publicly. That evening, Amara and Nia sat at the kitchen table, going over the drone footage and the emails. Nia had printed out county records, her highlighter marking references to the 1983 Thompson case. This goes deeper than I thought, she said. The Pierces, the Prices, they've kept Cedar Lane homogeneous by design. But we're not the Thompsons. We've got evidence, and we've got allies. She called Miss Torres, who confirmed she'd sent the drone footage to Mia Chen. She's working on a story, Miss Torres said over speakerphone. But we need to move fast. The HOA meeting is in 3 days, and animal control's coming tomorrow. Amara barely slept that night, her mind racing with plans and fears. She worked on her drone until dawn, tweaking the projector to handle video files, her hands steady despite the exhaustion. Titan and Nova slept in her room, their presence a reminder of what was at stake. By morning, the house was a flurry of activity. Nia was on the phone with a lawyer friend from her Air Force days, demanding a stay on the impound order. Jaden arrived with a USB drive of the hacked emails, his face grim. They're planning to push for eviction if the dogs are deemed dangerous, he said. We need to get ahead of this. At school, the harassment reached a new low. In the hallway, someone tripped Amara, sending her books sprawling. Laughter erupted as she knelt to pick them up, a wadded-up napkin hitting her shoulder. Hey, miss, Torres's voice cut through the chaos. That's enough. She strode toward Amara, her heels clicking on the tile. Anyone I catch harassing a student will face suspension. The crowd dispersed, but the damage was done. Amara's shoes were wet with spilled juice, her pride bruised but intact. Miss Torres helped her up, her expression fierce. Come to my office after school. We're building a case. In Miss Torres's office, Amara found Sarah Chen waiting, her hands twisting nervously. My mom got the footage, Sarah said. She's meeting with you tonight. She thinks this could blow up national news even. Amara's heart lifted, but the weight of the day pressed down. What if it's not enough? She asked. Ms. Torres leaned forward, her voice steady. It's enough to start. You're not just fighting for you, Amara. You're fighting for every kid who's been targeted here. The Garcias, the Kims, the Thompsons, they all deserve justice. That afternoon, animal control arrived at the Carter house. 2 officers in khaki uniforms stood on the porch, holding catch poles. We're here for the dogs, one said, his tone flat. Nia handed over the leashes, her face a mask of controlled anger. They're trained military animals, she said. They responded to a threat. You'll see that at the hearing. Amara watched, tears spilling down her cheeks, as Titan and Nova were led to the van, their heads high, but their eyes searching for her. We'll get them back, Nia whispered, pulling Amara close. I promise. As the van pulled away, Amara's phone buzzed with a message from Mia Chen. Got the footage. Meeting you tonight. Bring everything you've got. Amara looked at her mom, then at Jaden, who was already pulling up more emails on his laptop. The HOA meeting was looming, and the town was turning against them. But for the first time, Amara felt a spark of defiance. They had the drone footage, the emails, and allies like Ms. Torres and Mia Chen. Cedar Lane thought it could break her, but Amara Carter wasn't going down without a fight. The gym at Willow Creek High buzzed with nervous energy, the air thick with the hum of voices and the faint smell of polished wood and sweat. It was the night of the STEM fair, and the cavernous space was transformed into a showcase of blinking LEDs, whirring motors, and colorful posters explaining everything from robotics to renewable energy. Amara Carter stood beside her project table, her heart pounding as she adjusted the sleek quadcopter drone that was the centerpiece of her display. Its black frame gleamed under the fluorescent lights, its custom-built projector lens angled upward, ready to cast images onto the blank wall above the bleachers. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked the connections, her mind racing with the plan she, Jaden, and Ms. Torres had spent the last 2 days perfecting. This wasn't just a school project anymore, it was a weapon, a beacon to light up the truth about Cedar Lane. Across the gym, Logan Pierce lounged beside his project, a flashy robotic arm that drew oohs and ahs from the judges. His smug grin, the same one he'd worn while taunting her, made Amara's stomach churn, but she pushed the feeling down. Tonight, she wasn't the scared girl cornered on Maple Drive. Tonight, she was fighting back. The past 3 days had been a whirlwind of fear and defiance. With Titan and Nova locked away in an animal control kennel, their absence left a gaping hole in the Carter house. Amara had barely slept, her nights spent tweaking her drone's projector code and poring over the HOA emails Jaden had uncovered. The hacked correspondence painted a damning picture. years of targeted harassment against minority families, orchestrated by Mayor Pierce, Evelyn Price, and a handful of Aconis. Fines for unapproved decorations, noise complaints that never applied to white families, and vague zoning violations that pushed people like the Thompsons out in the 1980s. Dr. Amara Carter had dug deeper into county records, unearthing documents that confirmed the town's history of redlining, a deliberate effort to keep Cedar Lane white and wealthy. "This isn't just about us," Nia had said, her voice fierce over dinner the night before. "It's about every family they've silenced. We're going to make them hear us." The next morning, the animal control hearing was a formality. Nia presented Titan and Nova's military certifications, backed by the drone footage and Mia's news story, which had aired on local TV at dawn. The officers released the dogs, their tails wagging as they bounded to Amara, nearly knocking her over with their enthusiasm. The crowd outside the county office cheered, neighbors from the vigil still holding their signs. Logan, Ethan, and Caleb faced expulsion after the school board, humiliated by the public outcry, launched a full investigation. Mayor Pierce resigned that afternoon, his office swarmed by reporters. The HOO had dissolved under pressure, and a new community council formed, with Nia elected as its first chair. Weeks later, Amara stood in Cedar Lane's community park, the late October sun casting a golden glow over the grass. She'd launched a tech workshop for local kids, teaching them to build drones and use them for art projects. Jaden was there, demonstrating a flight simulator on his laptop, while Sarah Chen helped younger kids solder circuit boards. Titan and Nova chased a frisbee, their scars from the kennel fading, their spirits high. Mrs. Kim brought homemade dumplings, Mr. Patel offered chai, and even Mr. Reynolds showed up, offering to fund the workshop supplies. "I misjudged you," he told Amara, his voice gruff. "Won't happen again." As the sun set, Amara launched her drone, projecting a new mural onto the park's pavilion wall, a collage of Cedar Lane's faces, Black, Hispanic, Asian, white, all smiling. Together, the kids cheered, their drones buzzing around, casting smaller lights into the twilight. Nia stood beside her, her eyes shining with pride. "We did this together," Amara said, her voice soft but sure. The weight of the past month lifted. Not gone but lighter, as Cedar Lane began to heal, one mite at a time.